Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Hello. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but you are listening to the Portsmouth Proud podcast. I'm your host, E. Washington, the Public Information Officer for the Portsmouth Police Department. We serve a community that's not too far from the ocean, not too far from the bay, right on the river. And we are producing this police podcast for you. So you know what's happening in your city. You know the plan, and you know how you can be a part of it.
This is episode 5 of the Portsmouth Proud podcast, and today we have a wonderful guest. We have Mr. Todd Elliott. He is the Director of Libraries for the City of Portsmouth. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
So I was excited when you agreed to do this because I love libraries.
Okay.
I love libraries. I love books. I guess my love for libraries is love for books. And when I think about libraries, I think about my first foray into independence because it was like the first place that I was allowed to go to by myself after school.
Yes.
And just read whatever I wanted to read while I was there at the library. So it's very near and dear to my heart. So I was excited when you said, yes, you would come on our podcast and we could talk about your role as a librarian or the director of libraries, how you got there. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, I always like to see, what is your background? What's the background?
Well, I am from Portsmouth.
Okay.
So I grew up here. I'm a product of Portsmouth Public Schools.
Okay.
I graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School, Old Wilson, on Willett Drive. Dated a young lady in my senior year. We're coming up on 39 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jackie. And we have 2 adult kids that, are still in the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Portsmouth native. Okay.
Portsmouth native. I did not look to get into libraries. I actually worked at the library, the main library downtown on Court Street through most of high school.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I did. Had no plans to be a librarian, though. I did a number of things. It's a running joke how many different jobs I have over the years. I was a bridge tunnel patrolman back when we were down in the tunnel and collecting toll. Physically and toll booth, I did that for a little while, and that was interesting work. I went into the Air Force and worked as a radio technician. Okay. So I fixed mobile communications for just a few years before I decided to get out, go to college, and my plan was to be a history teacher. Okay. In K-12. But while going to school, the Air Force took me to South Carolina. While going to school there, University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks.
Okay. I have a friend who would love that.
Yeah. I was working at the library, the central library at Columbia, Richland Library, and really liked what I was doing. No, I loved what I was doing.
What were you doing working there?
I did different things. Okay. I worked in technical services, which is, cataloging, producing spine labels, barcoding, different things. It's as exciting as it sounds, and I had to get out of that piece of library work. But there are those who love it. I've worked in circulation. I worked in film and sound, and I had a boss who was also African American, Quincy Pugh, and convinced me. He wore me down, to go to library school. He says, you love this. There's just not enough African American men in the profession, and at the time there were fewer than 500 African American males in the nation that had a master's in library science. Okay. So I became one of them at South Carolina, and made the decision. My wife and I made the decision to move our family home. I worked at Norfolk Public Library. I was the bookmobile librarian, which took me out into different communities. mostly dealing with the kids,
Yeah.
which I love. And then a brief stint as an academic librarian at Tidewater Community College for a few years. And then, Portsmouth drew me home. Sue Burton was the director at the time. They had an opening for assistant director, and I had to take it.
You had to take it.
When I became director in 2009, it was just, for me, just the most gratifying thing to come back home and do what I love. And you mentioned, going to the library as a kid.
Yes.
I did the same.
Right.
I lived nearby in a local housing project, Outer Barbara Housing Project, and which was in walking distance. So about 10 years old, I'm walking by myself to the library. My mom knows how long it takes to get there and get back. So, it's just been love for me, this profession.
Now, is your current office in that main library?
It most certainly is.
So how does that feel, having worked there as a teenager, and then you come back and you're the top person at the
there's
library?
Still some people there that were there when I was a teenager,
Really?
driving them crazy. Let me tell you, it is different. One of the ladies that retired about a year ago had actually babysat me and my brother.
Are you serious? Oh, wow.
I didn't tell her what to do so much as I think she told me still. So, but it's a blessing,
right?
Because I don't like the library. I love the library. I love Portsmouth Public Library, and that's why I'm gratified to do what I do, and I don't mind talking about it, anytime people ask me. Yeah.
Okay, so it's home. Portsmouth drew you back home, and you're getting to do what you love. So how, thinking about, like we had just briefly talked about, having children or adolescents have their first forays of independence going to the library, how does that help you guide programming? And not necessarily you, because I know there's people who are under you that are guiding programs.
That's right.
How does that go into guiding the types of programs that the library offers to the community, where it is a place where teens or a little bit older children can go by themselves?
That is true. Now, we do require that kids under the age of 12 have someone with them.
Right.
And that's just,
safety.
Yeah. But, we have a terrific team of folks who, receive actually very little guidance from me. I do make suggestions or recommendations, and I am very cognizant of the fact that we often get kids very young, and they love the library, and then they break off somewhere about the time they start going to, middle school,
right,
high school. So, we are definitely working towards drawing teens in. For example, we have teen spaces at both our Churchland branch and our main library.
Okay.
And those are teen-only areas. They also double up as classrooms. We have a very strong Girls Who Code program, and it's girls only. But they learn about computer coding and different ways that computers can improve their lives and the lives of others. And that's led by a very dynamic library associate over at our main library, Lauren White. So I always like to give credit where credit is due. Between Lauren and all of the different library associates that we have, because we have someone that works with youth at each location. So they put together programs that are designed to attract and draw kids in. I've taken, my forays into it as well. I did a guys read program.
Okay.
Out at Craddock for a little while. And it actually had me, at one point, I had all this pizza and these free books to give away, and I didn't have any kids. So, and don't do this at home, folks. I went out, because I had maybe one child in there. So I went walking around the neighborhood. I'm like, hey, Ken, what are you doing? Go over to the library. I got some, books and some food. And they went in there and, and I did get a good little group, just walking in. But, I made sure that my ID and all that was visible.
So they knew. How's this man with pizza?
And most of the kids, in crowd out recognize me, haven't seen me at the library and all that. So, I wasn't a stranger.
Right.
But that's how we like to do. We often do outreach. We go into communities on a regular as much as possible. I like to spend time, out at the schools.
Okay.
So that is how, and we take feedback. So we like to hear from parents and, other library users that, say, hey, our kid would like to do this. We have a teen summer camp, that comes up, I want to say in July, and of course we have summer reading programs as soon as school starts. Summer reading picks up, and it's for all ages, young children, teenagers, and adults. We also get the adults, and adults can win prizes too. So we're coming up on that, like I said, in June, as soon as school lets out. So we are always looking for ways to get people in, and like I said, especially teenagers. I'm really, really concerned about that. So I don't know how many of them listen to your show, but it's a good place. It's a good place to be.
Right.
It's a safe place to be.
And so does the library ever partner with like law enforcement agencies or the Portsmouth Police Department to kind of be that, we hear a lot about like out of school time, a space where kids can go after school to stay out of trouble or to have some kind of activity. Does the library offer those things throughout the school year, or is it primarily out of school time during the summer?
It is, we have things available. There are programs that they can come in, say if they go, the children's spaces and the teen spaces that we have at our locations, we have dedicated computers.
Okay.
We have, with programs that they can use because the kids, they want to be messing around with that technology. We have passive programs there. So we have board games, we have toys, things like that. And that's year round.
Okay.
So, we want to be the place for them. But we also do different things. We have technology classes that we offer to people. We tend to get more seniors in those, who are interested in learning more about, maybe getting an email address and all of that. But no, it's year round.
Year round.
That we're doing things. And our calendar, our events, we have movies. We actually pay for movie licenses so that we can, we got to do it right. I'm not going to be in the police department talking about, showing illegal, everything that we show is above board. So, so we have things going on all the time. And if you go to our website, portsmouthpubliclibrary.org, we have a full calendar of events. We have electronic books for all ages, and I'm talking even picture books. We have a wealth of research resources that are referenced and curated. We have homework help online, and you can actually access it from home.
Homework help.
Yeah, I want to say between 2 and 10 o'clock. You can go online and actually chat with a tutor.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
So we got stuff.
You got stuff. You got stuff. I like that. It's important because sometimes, when we think about the library, for some of us, you think about books.
Right.
And you, depending on the last time you went to the library, you can think of the like old school where it's like, shh, be quiet. So that brings me to wanting to ask you, seeing those changes of how the role of the library within the community, because I feel like when when I was younger, we were kind of getting away from the be quiet in the library, and there was more opportunity or more classes, and it was more of like a community space where people can learning resources outside of just reading. So how has those changes? How have you seen the library change?
I have seen us, as you, and you're absolutely right. We are community centers. Yeah, we're more community centered, community oriented. It's how libraries across the country have changed over the years. So we want to be places that people can engage, come together, and work collaboratively. We bring people in. Like you said, we've had the police there, giving workshops. We've had the sheriff's department. We've had the fire department. All the kids get excited when they show up. So it's hardly quiet when the fire department's there and the kids are, turn the sirens on and all that. There are quiet spaces that we offer. For example, Churchland Branch has study rooms that are available, and we have spaces that can be used in that capacity at Main Library. But no, we're not as quiet as we used to be. We have a lot of passive items out, so that if someone wants to come to Main Library, for example, and put a puzzle together, we get 2 or 3 people that come in every day, just work on puzzles, and they talk, they have small conversation. We actually encourage that. So, and trust me, because I know I am quite a bit older than you. I started going to the library on a regular, say around 1969, 1970. So it has changed a lot. There was some serious shushing action back in those days. But I am glad, to see that, because that means that people are comfortable. It's almost like being in the city's living room.
Yeah.
So you're
I like that. Being in the city's, that's nice. I like that.
Oh boy.
In the city's living room.
We have to coin that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes. Just people coming together. Sometimes, people, you don't know the person, but you might see someone reading something, ask questions. Hey, tell me about that author. I'm interested. And you have people, yes, they get engaged about books, but we are so much more. I mean, you can come in, you can get audio books, you can download audio books. So we have resources that allow you to download or stream music. We have access to the Sony catalog through one of our library resources. So you can hear a wide variety of music, which is good because I like a wide variety. You can download movies, mostly classics, but, I like classic
You like
movies.
classics?
So there's just a lot of things going on right now. You can download ebooks, manga, graphic novels, comic books, all that stuff. We have it physically at the library, and the kids love it. But like I said, you could download it on your phone while you're, waiting in a grocery store line, one of these long lines. I've actually downloaded a magazine. We have access to about 5,000 different magazine titles through Libby, and so the very many of the same titles you see being advertised, out by the cash registers, I could download that same magazine and start reading it from my phone. So it's just changed a lot. Technology has really taken us places that are exciting.
Yeah. Now, how do a lot of our residents utilize that technology piece? Because I know personally, I just started download. I like going in the library, like smelling the book, with the pages. But I just started using downloading and using Libby and Hoopla. So is it popular? Do a lot of residents utilize that?
A lot do. We have several. we have tens of thousands of library card holders, but they're not all active.
Right.
And that's the thing. So, I mean, I'd say easily, a third to half of the city's residents, someone in the household has a library card.
Right.
But they're not all actively engaged with it. And then we want to get more of that. It's fine to have a card. It's better if you use
the card. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is always going to be the challenge, but that's okay. Coming on, programs like yours help get the word out. Word of mouth is a huge thing in the city of Portsmouth. So, and I know this. So, we get it out there. And let me tell you, a lot of people know me because, I grew up here and all. And a lot of people know that I'm in the library. And again, I have been in that grocery store line and someone says, "Hey, Todd, I got some books that need to go back. Can I give them to you?" And I've actually taken them. I was like, "Yeah, go ahead." And we'll get their books. This is the library today. Right. We're part of the community.
Yeah.
And again, I want people to approach me and ask, questions and ask what we can do to draw them in. What would you like to see in your library? Yeah.
Is there a place where constituents or library users can come in and leave those suggestions?
Yes, in fact, we have an online Ask a Librarian link that will allow you to send comments. You can make recommendations for materials that you would like to see at the library, some things that, and if they fall within our collection development policy, and we do have a policy and it is online, that determines, how we collect and, and accept books and all of that, we can't get everything. We can't,
what is that process? What is you don't have to go through the whole policy,
sure.
But what are like some of the guidelines?
Well, we do reviews. So we actually review much of what we're going to purchase. Much of, many things that we know are going to circulate are on what we call standing order. We're just going to get it. If Stephen King gets a new book out,
you're going to get it.
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming, we're going to get that book, and back when, when we had authors like, Toni Morrison, before she passed, we would, if she had a new book out, it was coming. We didn't have to order it or anything like that. We're getting that book. So, most of the popular books, the popular authors, we're going to get through standing order. But we also go through journals and, and we take our community into consideration. That's the biggest thing. We know what moves in our library. We can we follow the statistics, so we know what's circulating.
Okay.
And we move and we collect based on largely on that.
So I'm assuming that this is part of the library science part of
that is the library exactly. Okay. That is the library science piece. So is knowing your audience, knowing your demographic, and again, just keeping eyes and ears open to the needs of the community.
So this brings me, knowing your demographic, knowing what circulates in your library, brings me to, over the last, I'll say about 7 years, you hear about libraries and people being very, what do I want to say? Looking exactly what types of titles, what books are in the library, being a little bit more vocal and maybe a little bit more involved, or giving the appearance of being more involved in what is being housed in the library. How do you balance, say, there's people who have strong opinions about it, but it doesn't reflect the opinion or the usage of your community? How do you walk that line? That's
a good question, Alexia. And I'm just going to say, Portsmouth is a diverse community.
Mm-hmm.
We've got all kinds of folks in our community. Everyone is welcome. Libraries are one, if not the most democratic, institution in any municipality.
Right.
We don't ask for anything. You don't have to show a card to even come in. Anyone comes in, and they are welcome. But as far as, and that's what our collection will reflect. So we do get, we get challenges. We've had book challenges before. We don't get many here in Portsmouth because I think that the majority of people recognize just how diverse our community is, and and people need to see themselves in their collections. There are young people out there that wrestle with different things, and they want to see themselves in the materials that we carry. We have a process. If someone believes that we have what we call a reconsideration form.
Okay.
So if someone feels like, oh, well, this particular item, doesn't belong in the library, we actually have a committee within the library that will review it, and we all commit ourselves to reading this, and that includes the director. Anytime any book is put up for reconsideration, one of the first things I want to know is, did you read it? Are you familiar with this book? Are you going by something that you heard about this particular material?
Gotcha.
So I will, they will read it. They will give their recommendation. If they're not happy with it,
this is the person that makes the complaint.
That makes the complaint.
They have to prove not prove, but
they don't have to prove.
But they have to.
But I am always curious to know and I will ask them.
Okay.
I will reach out to them personally.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and if they're not happy with, with my consideration, then we have an advisory library board that's council appointed.
Okay.
And
really?
Oh yeah, we do, and I think we have a couple of vacancies available. So if anyone's interested in advising the director, so we actually listen to citizens that way too.
Did not know. I am so glad to talk to you.
Okay.
Did not know this, and I don't know how many other people know that there's this whole process.
There's a nine-person citizen advisory board that are appointed by council, and so again that's one of the things to help keep us grounded. Mm-hmm. They review any changes to policy. Okay. That we have, including our collection development policy, our technology policy, any of that, So, but yeah, getting back to that, there's any good library is going to have something that someone doesn't like.
Right.
That's just the bottom line. I don't want to read every book that's in the library. Some of the ones that have been most challenged in the past year or two, I did read.
Okay.
It's not, and they were items that I would not have picked up just on my own.
Right.
But I came back feeling like I understood this author's, where they were coming from, and it helped me, it broadened my horizon. Okay. To do so. So,
Are there any, so as a parent, are there anything, flags that you put on a kid's account that would prevent them from, maybe if you're a particular parent, like you don't mind it being in the library, but you don't want your child to read it. Are there any things that you can do in the library to help that, assist that?
We gently guide. We gently guide. Most of us are used to seeing, we get to know our young people in particular pretty well, and we get to understand the kinds of books that they check out. And there are some things that, I'm not going to let, say, a 6-year-old take out something from the, adult nonfiction section. And I'm sure that that's true.
Right.
With any of our staff, without their parents' permission.
Right. Okay.
But, we don't act as censors, and that's why I say, that we have, a certain age limit, we require that,
Parents
a child
be
under the
present.
child, or older, child in the family to help with that.
And I'm glad you brought that back, because when you initially said you don't allow children under the age of 12 in, I immediately went to safety, but I was thinking of like physical safety. Actually, I was thinking because kids are rowdy and don't listen. That's what I was thinking. Like, you need parental guidance, but also parental responsibility and looking at what material that your children are checking out.
That's right.
The onus is on the parent look at what their children. I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking about playing.
Yeah, just
playing around.
Hanging out. Yeah, but no, that is true. That's the other piece of it. And most children are accompanied by a parent, a guardian, caregiver. So again, we get so excited to see kids just have this joy of reading, but reading needs to be at an appropriate level. So, and I think most families understand that. We certainly understand that. Okay. That some things are just not appropriate, and
Well, we're going to take our first community break, and we will be back with Mr. Todd Elliott. He is the Director of Libraries for the City of Portsmouth, and we look forward to talking to him some more.
All right. Thank you.
Are you considering a career in law enforcement? Sign on today as a Portsmouth police officer and receive up to $1,500 if you're already Virginia certified. We offer a $1,000 allowance for a bachelor's degree and a $500 allowance for an associate's degree on top of your base pay. Officers can also earn additional income on time spent in court and at community events. Visit our website at portsmouthpd.us for more information on how to apply.
So we are back. We are back with Mr. Todd Elliott. He is the Director of Libraries for the City of Portsmouth, and we've been talking about library programs, also what goes into creating the library policy. There's a 9-member advisory council for the library. I didn't know that, so it's been a very interesting conversation. But I also want to talk about libraries are just really important, but recently we've heard or read headlines, or we've heard on the news that libraries nationwide might lose some of their public funding, and that is happening at the same time that we also hear that our college students are struggling to read actual books or long form content, and then just reading overall. Americans might be struggling a little bit to read. So how is Portsmouth addressing that? Are they part of a national campaign, a local campaign that's going on to improve reading or encourage reading?
Every library is doing something in their community to improve reading. And that's why we want to get young people in as soon as possible. We have programs for infants on up to, so we work heavily with early and emergent literacy. That's a big part of what all libraries are engaged in. So we have programs like I mentioned earlier, the summer reading program, and that also helps to prevent, avoid the summer slump that people talk about in the schools where kids aren't really engaging, so we're trying to keep them engaged as they take that time out. But, we also offer different programs locally. There's Portsmouth Reads, which is run by my former boss and library director, Susan Burton, who, which work with adults to raise literacy.
Okay.
So they have tutors and provide, one-on-one assistance. They can use the library. They do often use the library as space to do that. And we also offer, digital literacy, technical literacy, and many times we're doing this one-on-one. So there are things that we are doing. We offer resources online to help people get up to speed. So we actually have databases that we could sit people down in front of, and it will help them, work on skills that, they can use to, practice for the GED, for example. And there's no, there's no stigma attached to asking for help. My wife, and I don't think Jackie will mind me sharing this. I hope not, because I'm getting ready to share it. But had dropped out of high school and went back and got her GED, and has gone on to get her bachelor's, her master's, and her postgraduate certifications in human services. So you can really advance yourself. Libraries are all about lifelong learning. Yeah. And I know that our city council is very concerned about, lifelong learning. So we want to get them as early as possible, get them reading as early as possible, and appreciating it. And that's why I like to go out in the community as well. Kids need to see, they need to see that men, also like to engage in books. One young man that's taken TikTok by storm, Michael Threets, has his post about library joy. And he likes to tell stories about people that he's a young African-American man that come in to, just share stories about the way he's been able to help people that come to his library. We're all about that. I'm not as polished as
and this is a teenager? Or?
No, he's a grown man.
Oh, okay.
I would say he's probably in his late 20s, early 30s. But yeah, he's all over social media. In fact, he will be at our Virginia Library Association conference this fall, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to be our keynote speaker. But yeah, all libraries, no matter how large or how small, are engaged in literacy and in improving literacy, at varying degrees. I think we do a pretty good job here in Portsmouth.
Right. And I think people just to know, the library is free. Yes. And you can learn, like you said, it's lifelong learning. And you can take advantage of, there's books and digital of copies, and there are just so many resources for you to advance yourself and to expand your knowledge base.
That's right.
And it's completely free. And thinking of when they're talking about or possibilities of funding being cut, to take advantage of it, because take advantage of it being able to have access to a library. Talking to Mr. Elliott earlier, libraries used to be segregated, and everyone didn't have the same access to the same quality of materials or resources. Yes. And so it's important that we take advantage of what we have available to us and utilize it, because it's important. If you would, I know that you are currently pursuing your PhD. Yes. And talking about segregation, but you also had talked about, I think you're studying, you said, disability and enslavement?
Yeah, I'm studying, working on a PhD in history, in American history. But yeah, my dissertation is on disability and in enslaved persons, and enslaved people, and how the enslaved communities came together to support disabled people. And disability came on in many forms. Many times it was congenital due to the rigors, stress on the mothers, diet, or inflicted upon. Sometimes disability was beaten or, included as punishment. So it's not an easy subject to spend time, thinking of, but it's an important subject because a large percentage of people, easily more than 10% of the enslaved population, somewhere between 10 and 15%, had some form of disability. So I think it's an important work. It hasn't been. It can be a little hard to tease that information out because you're reading records, plantation records. I've read slave narratives, lots of slave narratives, especially in Virginia, the Carolinas, and Maryland, and just finding places where people, they don't call it disability; it's differently abled. Oftentimes because that was a feature of West African culture. They weren't treated as less than, just different than. So it's really interesting. It's fascinating, and I've fallen a little bit behind. So just bringing it up to you helps me to. This is going to keep me on point. So I'll go ahead and finish this thing.
Well, I wanted to discuss that because these are things that are found only by reading.
Correct.
Because if all your time is just consumed by what pops up on a reel or something on social media or even TV shows, these are little things that you come across by reading something.
That's
you
right.
might get a snippet of something and you're
right.
like, oh, I never thought about that. And now you're interested in, and there's a whole world or a subject matter that you can delve into deeper. I would have, unless you said this, I would have never came across or even thought about differently abled in enslaved times or how that impacted the slave community or enslaved community at all. I've never thought about that. Never even occurred to me. And so when you're talking or when you brought that up, it's making me want, I know once I go home, I'm going to now do some research and I'm going to look this up.
I hope you will.
Because it's interesting. But that's what libraries,
yes.
That's what libraries provide, an opportunity and a space for you to be able to explore things that you aren't going to explore on your own.
That's right.
And you have journals, so you have access to academic journals where you can get some more, writings from credentialed or people who are experts in their field. It's not just solely an opinion. And then you have access to the nonfiction works about it. And then some of us, we like historical fiction. It kind of brings to life something that we have been learning about. So you have all the different areas from magazines to journals to the nonfiction books to fiction works that you can partake of. That's right. When you go to the library or when you go on the library's website and you can download it electronically. And then Portsmouth also has access to Libby and some other resources. I know that me as a parent, it was important. My dad had said to me, make your boys read before you let them play video games. Because if you make sure that they like to read, then they can play the video games, but they will love to read.
Right.
And that is so true.
It is.
My boys, they're 16 now. They love to read. Always have a book. And they play video games too. But if I take the video games away, there's not like a bunch of complaining because they're just going to pick up a book. They're going to pick up a book. So reading, I love to read. They love to read. And it expands your perspective.
It does.
Reading fiction can make you, what they say, more empathetic. You're able to relate to people, and you're able to process things a little bit differently outside of your own experience.
That's right.
So it helps with the relationships, and these are all skills that we don't hear about, but they can be acquired by taking advantage of the library.
You make a terrific librarian yourself, I tell you.
Well, Mr. Elliott, is there anything that you would say to a young person who loves going to the library, might not be sure, they know they love being there, but what would you say to them if they were interested in being at the library as an adult for a career?
Okay. Well, I tell you, don't be afraid to ask us questions. We are more than happy to answer them. Virginia got its first accredited library school program, Master's in Library Science program, in the state just a few years ago, right across the river at Old Dominion University.
Okay.
I served on the advisory board as it developed. So I got to see the program developed and up and running, from the ground floor up. And that's an exciting thing to see. I can tell you this. We are more than happy to answer your questions. The librarians are and I know most people, when they come in the library, everyone is a librarian to them. The librarians are the professional staff that have the education, the credentials, and yes, public librarians are actually state certified. Okay. So through the Library of Virginia. So, and all of our librarians are state certified.
So if you go to get your degree?
Yes.
And you to be a librarian, you have a master's?
Yes. And
after you acquire your master's, then you
go to work, and it's, I wouldn't say a sponsor so much, but if you're working in the public library space, we help the folks that work for us, get their certification. We help with paperwork and pay the fee.
Is there a test or exam, or?
There's no test. Okay. It's just, proof that you have the credentials education-wise and that you are working in a accredited public library. Yeah. Okay. So, library schools have to be accredited. ODUs did receive national accreditation through the American Library Association. It's been, like I said, it's not something that I saw for myself, but I can say this: I'm seeing more and more young people take the plunge. You can find them on social media. Like I said, I mentioned a TikToker, Mr. Threets. I'm on social media. You will be bored by my by my pages, but Portsmouth Public Library has a Facebook page. We put our, different things we have going on. But I have had the privilege of serving as president. First black public librarian to serve as president of the Virginia Library Association.
Oh, wow.
In its 100-year history.
Wow.
But, and I wasn't the last after that. So, and that was in 2018. So these changes, are still happening all the time. I've served as president of the Virginia Public Library Directors Association and chair of the Tidewater Area Library Directors Council. So we are a very tight-knit group. I've had the privilege of going to Congress as VLA president to, visit our legislators and talk about library service and, and how deeply our community is impacted by, even at the federal level, what's going, on. So
when did this happen?
When I was president. So the 2018, 2019, yeah.
How was that experience?
Oh, it was, I was a little intimidated.
Oh, really? Were you?
I was like, this kid from Portsmouth, from Ida Barber, who just loved reading, and would go and get a stack of books and go home and just dream, about what I wanted to do as an adult. There's just so much that all of our kids, in Portsmouth can do and the library is a big part of you know, making that happen for them, helping them to explore, you know, so and dream,
Right.
you know.
Indeed.
So if you're considering a career in it, I say, you know, just ask, you know, ask somebody. You know, you can go online, you know, go to our webpage, go to ala.org and get more information about that, or VLA.org, which is our state library association page, and you'll find more information. You can see what kind of jobs are available in the you know, in library land. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we're getting ready to close, but I have 2 questions for you. First
Sure.
one, what's your favorite book?
Oh wow. Oh, that's a good. I should have been ready for that one.
It can be your top 3. It doesn't have to be, It doesn't have to be the absolute.
Oh wow. Well, I know amongst my favorites, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which I read. Yeah, and most of these I read when I was a teenager. Native Son by Richard Wright. I'm big into fantasy, so I'm a Tolkien fan. Lord of the Rings. Okay. And you know, so I would definitely put them near the top because I've come back to them again and again. And I am currently reading something by Octavia Butler.
Okay, so that's sci-fi?
Sci-fi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm a sci-fi nerd too. So you know, you get to geek out big time in libraries. So you know, Parable of the Sower. I'm reading that right now.
Parable of the Sower.
Of the Sower.
Well, that was my second question. What was your current read?
Yeah.
So there. Okay.
There we go.
Yes. Yes. Well, it has been a pleasure, Mr. Elliott. To our listeners, remember, this is your city. This is our city. So let's do something great.